Hello, friends. Welcome back to At Home with Holly. My name's Holly, and I'm so glad that you're here with me today. Today's a big day. Today, we've got some work to do. We're doing all things potatoes today. Um, first things first, we are going to get our potato slips into some water because the slips that we started together are growing like crazy, and we need to get them rooting. We've also got a variety of potatoes, regular, not sweet potatoes, just white potatoes. We've got some that were purchased as seed potatoes and some that are from the grocery store. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do with these. We're going to chit, CH, not SH. We're going to chit our potatoes. That just means to get a little jump on the growing season. We're going to get the little eyes on the potatoes to start having sprouts, not long sprouts, but just little sprouts so that we can get a jump on the growing season. I am in Northwest Ohio, and I usually put my potatoes out like the first week of April 1st-ish. And I do mine in pots so that I can bury them all at once at the same time. One and done. Mulch the top, water them really well the rest of the season, and then are able to harvest the potatoes. So I want to get a head start on the growing. So we're going to chit our potatoes, and we're going to get our sweet potato slips in the water to start rooting as well. I'm going to take you through the brands that I bought, where I purchased them, what I'm going to do, and just walk you through everything. But first things first, let's see the update on our sweet potatoes. So now here are our sweet potatoes. I just watered them, so they're sitting in a little bit of water. I bottom water, and so it soaks it up. And then after about 20 minutes or so, I'll dump out the excess and move on from there. So you don't have to worry too much about sweet potatoes. They're not super precious. You can start sweet potato slips in water, actually. So it's not like you can really like overwater and kill them by any means. But let me show you what we got going on. So this is an example. So we planted them. We just took the potato and put it inside the shallow tray with some soil. I put some vermiculite on top because that's habit for me. And it started to sprout. And you can see there's multiple places where it's sprouting on this one. Let's see another one. So all of these are sprouting. Some of them are starting to sprout from the different places where there's eyes, some of them from the sides. So they'll make a way. But we've got several. I always judge to see, when I spread out my fingers, does it go all the way? Does it go from the tip of my thumb to the top of my middle finger? And that means they're long enough for me to cut. You can cut them shorter. They'll grow just fine, but I want to give them a nice head start. So I'm going to get them nice and strong. So I'm going to get a jar of water and some scissors, and we'll get these into the next step of their journey. So you can see these are the ones that I've done over the last week or so. I've actually cut them and I've put them in a little jar with water, and you can see already the roots that are growing off of this one. So it doesn't take long. This has just been like less than a week, and they're already starting to root. So I start them off in this little glass because they're going to sink if I put them in anything taller or deeper. But once you get 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8 of them going, I'll switch them over to a taller, just a mason jar or a cup or whatever, red Solo cup, whatever you have. I like to see the roots because that's part of the fun for me. So I put them in something clear so I can watch. But for now, let's get this put to the side and let's get these larger ones snipped. I'm going to bring you in closer so you can see what we're going to do here. So you can see this one is really lovely. So we're just going to go down to the bottom of this plant, and we're just going to snip him right off. Now, this slip is going to grow from all these different places. I don't want the bottom leaves to just rot though. You can actually take these and make other slips if you wanted to, but I'm not going to do that today. So I'm just going to pick off the bottom few and I'm going to get this in some water, and it's going to start rooting. So let's go ahead and grab another one. Okay, so you can see this one, there's actually several in here. There's 1, 2, there's several. So I'm just going to grab the biggest one. So I actually am just going to pull it away a little bit, snip it off, and the rest of these will continue to grow. But this one, I'm just going to pop off some of the lower. You don't have to do this. They'll grow just fine if you leave them on, but I'm just going to pop off some of the lower ones grab my jar, add him to the jar, and then we'll leave them there. Now I will like dump this out and give them fresh water like once a week or so, but I just keep making sure, keeping an eye on it to make sure that the bottom of it is buried in water so that the roots will grow. So we'll leave this here and keep collecting our slips as we go. Now these other ones, although they look lovely, let me raise you up a little bit, although they look lovely, they're about halfway to where I would want them to be. So I'm going to let these grow. This just takes a couple days. So, 3 or 4 more days, and this guy will be at the right height for me to clip him. And there's multiples still growing on all of these plants. So I definitely am going to have lots of sweet potato slips to give to my neighbors, which is awesome. So, all right, let's get these put back where they need to go and move on to our next potato project. Okay, so let's talk about growing potatoes. I love growing potatoes. love growing potatoes. I've always had success with potatoes. Last year, I did not have a great potato year because the mice went in. I usually grow them in fabric pots. And I had my dog passed away at the beginning of the year, and so my yard was no longer patrolled by larger animals. So a lot of the small things moved in, including some mice, and they chewed right through those the woven fabric in those grow bags and helped themselves to all of the sweet potatoes and white potato. Well, not all but about 40 pounds of the potatoes. So, so this year. I am growing in hard-sided pots because I love growing potatoes in containers because it's just an easier way to harvest them. And then I don't have to designate a full raised bed to potatoes. So anyway, just my personal preference, tons of ways to grow potatoes, just one that I have really enjoyed doing so far. But seed potatoes. So seed potatoes are regular potatoes. There's nothing different about, they're not a different type of potato. They're all the same types of potatoes. The differences are in seed potatoes, growers that grow seed potatoes, they will actually harvest them when they're younger. The seed potatoes have the same amount of eyes, which is where they will grow the sprouts from, when they're like this big to when they're this big. So it doesn't make sense for the growers of seed potatoes to harvest them when they're this big because they would take up a lot of room and they'd have to store them and all that kind of stuff. So they just harvest them when they're a little smaller. But they still have all the structure that they need to grow more potatoes, if you will, right? The other difference in sweet potatoes and like the potatoes you buy at the grocery store is these are certified disease-free, right? So you're not going to bring in any stuff into your soil that you wouldn't want there, and the potatoes themselves are not going to be diseased and that kind of stuff. You also can get different varieties that you can't get at the store when you buy seed potatoes, right? And there's tons of places to buy seed potatoes. You can buy them from your local like Tractor Supply, Farm and Fleet, those kind of stores. You can order them online from some companies. You can do all that. You can also get seed potatoes if you buy organic potatoes from the grocery store. Hear me out on this. It's kind of the same thing as sweet potatoes. There's no difference in terms of the varieties, right? Like, so for example, these are russet potatoes from my local Kroger, and they're organic potatoes. This means that they have not been sprayed with a sprout inhibitor. And the sprout inhibitor is sprayed so that you don't have potatoes on the grocery store shelves growing sprouts. Now, we've all at some point in our lives probably had a bag of potatoes that we forgot about in the back of the pantry, in a drawer, or whatever, and they've grown sprouts. So they will eventually grow sprouts if you leave them in a moist, humid condition, or just leave them out long enough, they'll grow sprouts. But organic potatoes have not been sprayed with sprout inhibitors, so they are going to grow them quicker and more of them, if that makes sense. So you can grow potatoes and chit them to get them going early, or just place them in the ground without chitting them. They will grow too. They'll just take a little longer. You can grow them from organic potatoes as well. So like these organic potatoes that I got from Kroger, these are russet potatoes, and you can actually see on them, to see all these little places, those are the eyes of the potato, and they're already kind of starting to sprout and show you where they're going to grow from. So you can definitely pick up organic potatoes from the store and do this as well. I might actually do a side-by-side experiment here just to see what grows better. But this year I got potatoes from Wood Prairie Family Farm in Maine, and they had some really good varieties that I wanted to try. So number one, they had russet. I love baked potatoes. The main way that I eat potatoes, that I enjoy potatoes, are like twice baked potatoes, and I will make a whole tray of them, and then I'll freeze them into individual servings so that I have them whenever I want to throw a steak or a burger or pork chop or something and I want to bake potato with them. So I love russet potatoes. Another favorite that I like growing though are Kennebec potatoes. Kennebec potatoes are like one of the more popular ones for home gardeners. They store really well. They're a white potato and they're very versatile. You can do like baked potato, you can do fries with them, you can do, hash with them, all the things. So I love Kennebec potatoes. They had a variety called Elba, which is supposed to be like an improvement upon the Kennebec, meaning they're a little better storage and just easier to grow, that kind of stuff. So I'm excited to try the Elbas, and then I have the caribou russet, and then I have the russet from the store. I have grown purple and red potatoes and stuff in the past. I don't love purple potatoes. They're fun to grow and cool to pull out of the ground, but eating them, like if you put them in a soup, it turns the water like purple, almost gray, and all that kind of stuff. And purple mashed potatoes just aren't as appealing to me to eat. They taste fine, but just visually, it's not my jam. So I like them like diced and roasted, but that's about it. And I don't want to grow something that I don't really want to eat all the time. So these are the varieties that I'm going to grow this year, and I'm excited about them. So to chit your potatoes, lots of different ways to do this. In fact, the grower, Wood Prairie Family Farm, puts in a little guide on how to do it. Some people put them in a dark room. Some people, it just depends on what your house temperatures and conditions are usually like. I like doing the way that I found and learned from MI Gardener. So that's the way that I'm going to do them this year, because I had great success with it last year. It was a different way than I tried before. So I'm going to show you guys what we're going to do to get our potatoes started. So you need airflow, but you need a humid environment, if that makes sense, right? You don't want them sitting in water. You don't want them to be wet, but you want to create a humid environment. So generally speaking, I'm in my grow room is in my basement, and it is less than 50% humidity. I have a dehumidifier down here for the rest of the basement. But my grow room tends to be a little more humid because I'm constantly, watering and spraying, and the fans, it's just constantly a little more humid, but still not humid enough for the ideal conditions for chitting potatoes. So sometimes people will put them in an egg carton. I've seen that done before. That's a really good way. Last year I did it with the inserts that go in here to hold my seedling cups. Why can't I think today? And so this holds each individual potato. It allows the airflow to go underneath. So that's what I'm going to do again this year. So I'm excited about that. So I'm going to get this set up, and then I'll walk you through what to do next. Let's open up these bags and see what we got. So the first one is the caribou russet. These look good. And you can see where they're going to be forming all the eyes that this has. This is going to be great. These look awesome. We're going to get these spread out. Next is the Elba, which is the improved Kennebec, basically. Oh yeah, these look good. Okay, then we have our store-bought So what we're going to do is I'm going to, because I actually think I have just enough to make this work. I'm going to place this in a tray. These trays are perfect because it's got the bottom, so they're going to be sitting up off of the bottom. So they're not going to be like on a flat surface, so air can still get underneath them. You don't need or want them to be touching. So just putting them in there so that they have space around each other. I think this is going to be really good. Just as long as they're about, like a ½ inch space in between each other, they're fine. Okay, so that is, I'm trying to keep them separate. I can definitely tell the different types, but as they start to grow, they'll look more and more, well, the elbows won't look like the russets, but I guess these all look pretty different. These are a little more round in shape, and these are a little more, russet looking. I guess if that's a thing. Okay, we'll get these laid out, and then we're going to create the perfect humid environment. Okay, so we have our caribou russet, we have our Elba, and then we have our Simple Truth russet right in here. And what we're going to do, I decided to put them all in here because I had enough room to lay them flat without them touching. They're all about, ½ inch apart. Every once in a while, one's touching another one, but, there's plenty of airflow that can get in there. If I feel like there's not enough airflow, I'll put them back in this and add it. We want to create a humid environment without getting the potatoes themselves wet. Does it make sense? So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we are going to take just a dish rag and we're going to drape it across and we're just going to spray it to get it damp. And you don't want it like dripping wet, but you want it damp. And that's going to create the environment underneath where it's going to be 60 to 70% humidity, and it's going to be a lovely environment to chit our potatoes, to have the little sprouts start coming out of those eyes, and they're going to be strong and lovely and ready to go on April 1st. So this can take, 6 to 8 weeks, or it can take 4 or 5, or it can take 3 or 4. So that is why I ordered my potatoes early. And I picked up a bag from the grocery store early so that we can get this going. Again, not necessary. I just like to give them a head start because I like to get potatoes earlier. So here we go. We are going to get this spritzed, and then we're going to put it off to the side. This can be in the dark. This does not need to have light on it. That's why we've got this towel covering it. And I do have a fan going in this room for my seedlings so that they get just a slight breeze so that they have nice strong stems when we put them outside. So normally you would have to like respray this every 2 or 3 days. I probably have to spray it every other day, sometimes 2 days in a row. So just keep an eye on this, keep feel on it, check underneath, and make sure you're letting them get the correct amount of moisture. Let's get this sprayed. Okay, so I have this wet, but it's not wet everywhere. So I'm just gonna kind of squeeze out any extra moisture. And then we'll go ahead and lay that down over our taters. And then we'll leave them here, like I said, for a few weeks. I'm going to put them off in the corner so that they're not directly being sprayed by our oscillating fan. So for reference, just so that you guys know, that's a 10 by 20 tray that we filled up with potatoes. And the bags that I got from Wood Prairie Farms were each 2.5 pounds of potatoes. So I got 2 bags of 2.5 pounds. And then this bag from my local Kroger was a 3-pound bag. So, and I didn't plant 2 of them. I'm going to go roast those for dinner actually. But so that means we pretty much have, I would say, like 7.5 pounds of potatoes, like 2.5 pounds from each of the varieties. And you can usually get anywhere between 5 to 15 times what you plant. On good years, you have 10, 12, 15 times what you plant. On not so great years, you'll still get, usually about 5 times what you plant. That's the beauty of planting potatoes, is it's like a treasure hunt. You don't really know what you're going to get. It's just fun to dig it up and have them. It's not the most best return on an investment crop. I mean, you can get a lot of potatoes at a discounted price when they're in season. You can get large bags of potatoes. This is more of a skill and an enjoyment thing. I love to grow potatoes and I love to practice growing my own food. It's just something that I enjoy doing. I like where my food comes from, and I like teaching my daughter where her food comes from and teaching her the value of having the skill and appreciating the work that the farmers are doing for us. So with that said, I got 7.5 pounds of potatoes ready and started to be chitting for us so that we can have a really strong start to our potato growing season. We have our sweet potato slips growing roots in the water. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for spending time with me today as we worked on all of our potatoes for the 2024 garden. I appreciate all the likes and the comments and the shares and the support that you guys have given this channel. If you haven't yet subscribed, please consider subscribing. We have so much more growing and cooking and preserving and fun things to do with this growing season here to come. So I can't thank you guys enough. It means so much to me, and I can't wait to see you guys next time. Bye, my friends.